the strength and pride of our nation. Gammadda, rebuilding the nation.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News here on TV1. I'm Disal Kapuge for News First, where we are and always will be with the people. Before we take a look at the stories in detail, let's first cross over to the headlines.
Samurdhi beneficiaries who were dropped out of the Aswasama Welfare Benefit Program continue to protest. The published list of beneficiaries is not the final list. A statement from the acting finance minister. The Aswasama Welfare Benefit Program does not provide relief to the people. A statement from government faction MP Jagat Kumara. Will close the depots if trade union strikes are commenced. A warning from the transport minister. A statement from Minister Kanchana on the president's leadership.
ප්‍රතිපත්ති වලින් ඈත් වෙලා ඉන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් අද රටේ අවශ්‍යතාවය අනුව අපි මේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති වලට අනුගත වෙන්න ඕන.
SLPP has the leadership that can save the country. A statement from the party general secretary. Russia's Wagner group mutinies. Fighting breaks out in Russia.
A large number of Samurdhi beneficiaries who were not added to the Aswasama Welfare Benefit Program continued to protest on Saturday.
The list of beneficiaries who were added to the Aswasama Welfare Benefit Program was made public recently. A group of Samurdhi beneficiaries and beneficiaries of relief for kidney ailments from Dehiyattakandiya Vaibodagama engaged in a religious ritual against this action in the Vaibodagama Ganesha temple on Saturday. The people don't get the Samurdhi benefit anymore. The government is paying electricity and water expenses from our money, from the taxes we pay. Why did you introduce Aswasama? People from Thonikal area in Vaunia also protested the exclusion of their names from the list of beneficiaries under the Aswasama. They alleged that the program to select the beneficiaries is unjust. Another protest was organised in Bharatipuram, Vaunia.
Many names of disabled elders and the poor are not added to this list. They must be benefited. We are now destitute as a result of the actions of this government, just like the problems we faced as farmers recently. We should be given this relief.
People aren't giving any service. When we go to the offices, they ask us to come the next day. They are postponing. We don't get any relief. Speaking at a press briefing on Saturday, Acting Finance Minister Srihan Semasinghe said the published list of names is not the final list.
ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදලත් ලෝක බැංකුවත් විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ පවතින ආර්ථික අර්බුදය තුළ
What the IMF and the World Bank emphasized on the current economic crisis is that the provision of subsidies must be increased and the most vulnerable group of people should be benefited from such subsidies. I am disappointed to say that field officers didn't help us in conducting the census. It was a challenge for the district governors and the divisional secretariats to conduct this census. There are two sections in this. One is the list of names based on the families. This is the list of names that have been published. But we will publish the list of names that was finalized with the names of the individuals. The name being included or not does not decide if the selection was done with certainty. Now we see several trade unions expressing their opinions against this. It is not fair to not fulfill the job that they are assigned to work, leading to a public commotion. We are ready to rectify the errors if anyone wasn't served with justice. If you most certainly are confirmed that you have been wronged, please submit your appeal to the divisional secretariat. Also, if you feel that anyone whose name is included in the list is ineligible to receive the subsidies, file an appeal against that also at the divisional secretariat today itself.
විශ්වාස කරනවා නම් නොලැබිය යුතු හඳුනාගෙනම ඉන්න කණ්ඩායමකට මේ දීමනාව ලබා දීමට සුදුසුයි කියලා නාම ලේඛනයේ ප්‍රසිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා කියලා කරුණා කරලා ඒ විරෝධතාවයත් අදම ගොනු කරන්න අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු කරන්න ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම් කාර්යාලයේ.
The SLPP MP and the General Secretary of the All Island Samurdhi and Agriculture Officers Union, Jagat Kumara, commented on the removal of the names of Samurdhi beneficiaries under the Aswasuma program.
ජනතාවට විතරක් නෙමෙයි අපිටත් අස්වැසිල්ලක් නැති වෙන තැනට අස්වැසුම පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
The Aswasuma has reached to a point where it has become a burden to us as well. I believe this is a matter that will burden the government within the next few days as well. Because of this, the disabled and many single mothers and many other vulnerable people have become destitute. Aswasuma has decided to cut down the relief of such beneficiaries. If we look at the new nominations, wealthier people have been nominated as beneficiaries through Aswasuma. This has now affected the income of the people suffering from poverty. The time given to file appeals is also not sufficient. Now the appeals have to be submitted before the 30th of June. Still, people of some divisions don't know if they were selected as beneficiaries or not. Now we see a dangerous situation rising its head across the country. If this somehow gathers momentum, it can eventually turn into a huge wave of protests against the government. You're now paying the subsidies on the 1st of July just because the IMF is asking you to. But many wealthy people are benefited from the Aswasuma as there are no protests. The minister has mentioned that if there are no protests, the subsidies will be provided as promised, and that means the ineligible beneficiaries will be benefited if there are no protests, and the eligible beneficiaries who don't have their names on the list will not be given the subsidy if they don't fight for it by submitting appeals. The government doesn't have the right to do that. It is wrong to let an ineligible person be benefited and also for an eligible person not to be benefited. All the officials who were involved in the process must be held responsible if something like that has happened. If people gather against this, we will lead them. There's no other alternative.
ඒකත් වැරදි. ඒකට සභාපතිගේ ඉඳන් මේකට සම්බන්ධ වුණා නම් යම් යම් නිලධාරීන් ඒ සියලු දෙනාම වග කියන්න ඕනේ. ඒ සියලු දෙනා අධිකරණයට ගෙනියනවා අපි. ඒ වගේම යම් විදියකට ජනතාවගේ පැත්තෙන් ඒකට ඒකරාශී වීමක් වුණොත් ඒකට අපි නායකත්වය දෙන වෙන විකල්පයක් නැහැ.
The collective of Samurdhi trade unions also commented on this on Saturday.
විශේෂ අමාත්‍යවරයා ඇතුළු ආණ්ඩුව කියන්නේ ප්‍රතිලාභ ලබා දිය යුතු.
The minister and the government say this list was prepared to benefit the most vulnerable group of people. So we would like to ask the minister and the government, if that has happened, don't try to put the blame on the trade unions and other organizations to avoid this problem. If we consider the Samurdhi workers, within the next 5 years, 50% of them will be retiring. The government is planning to remove them after paying compensation. The government is trying to stop this Samurdhi program. The money saved by billions of people suffering from poverty is circulating in the Samurdhi fund system and the banking system, and the money doesn't belong to the people in Medamulana.
බිලියන ගානක මුදලක් මිසක් මැදමුලනේ වලව්වලවත් කොල්ලු පිටියේ වලව්වලවත් හිටපු හාමුලා ඉතුරු කරපු සල්ලි නෙමෙයි.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, issuing a statement on the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program, says the government could have conducted a transparent survey to understand the real situation of the country at the initial stage of this program. The opposition leader further stresses that due to the government's inept decisions, the country has fallen into misery. He further inquires the objective of providing benefits for only 1.2 million people, only when there are 7 million people suffering from poverty in the country. He says deals with the IMF are done with a narrow objective. According to the statement, the current situation of the country can only be changed with populist thinking through a new mandate. The statement further highlights that according to the survey, Aswasuma must be carried out, aiming 7 million of the people suffering from poverty, and the needful must be selected through a scientific method only.
Secretary General of the United Nations Antonio Guterres assured the United Nations strong commitment towards assisting Sri Lanka in its economic recovery and debt sustainability endeavours.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the sidelines of the summit for a new global financial pact in Paris last week. During the meeting, President Wickremesinghe provided an update to the Secretary General on the progress made in Sri Lanka's economic recovery and debt restructuring efforts. The President's media division further said that the President has emphasized the government's commitment to provide a strong financial framework in the implementation of sustainable economic policies and to ensure the country's long-term economic stability. Additionally, President Wickremesinghe briefed Secretary General Guterres on the government's climate prosperity plan as well. Meanwhile, the President attended the second day of the Paris summit for a new global financial pact on Friday. Leaders of many countries, representatives including foreign ministers, heads of finance, climate activists and many others attended this session.
State Minister of Transport and Highways Bandiru Gunawardena commented on the development of depots belonging to Sri Lanka Transport Board. He expressed the following views during an event to distribute new buses for the Northwestern Province in Kurunegala on Saturday.
Every depot across the country should earn profits by 2025. During that, if any depot strikes or engages in any fraudulent act, it will be sealed. If they engage in any fraudulent act and protest demanding to be employed again, the depot will be sealed and closed down, and the buses of that depot will be given to the nearest depot. Therefore, last week we started to send buses without conductors. We will facilitate the drivers and the conductors with a QR code system very soon. That way we can assure that all the depots can earn profits. Parliamentarian Vajra Abeyewardena expressed the following views at the Karandeniya Balamandala meeting in Galle. There are 55 seats for the opposition party, and for the UNP it's just one seat. There are 134 MPs from the government faction, so there is only one for the UNP. Do you think there is only one UNPer in Parliament? There is nothing like that. Our leader had curated it. The USA and England are powerful countries, but the people of this country must be proud that an experienced person is ruling the country, unlike those countries. I would like to remind you that Ranil Wickremesinghe is bigger than all of those countries. When our president sits next to the Canadian Prime Minister, does the Canadian Prime Minister talk louder than our president? No. I saw pictures of our president in a conversation with the French president. There are no leaders, those who talk louder than our president. He is also one of the most powerful leaders in the world. Media is stressing that media regulation is taking place and that laws will be enacted. The laws must be brought in. Sri Lanka must be turned into another Singapore. I read the Media Regulation Act of Singapore. It is very important and we have to bring that in. The one we are trying to enact within Sri Lanka is not that restricting. When we are trying to bring in a small act, these people are asking not to. On the other hand, there is the anti-terrorism bill. The anti-terrorism bill must be brought in because if it is good for England, why isn't it good for other countries? That must be brought in for our safety and for the country's safety.
Meanwhile, the Devinuwara Executive Committee Forum of the SLPP was held today with the participation of Minister Kanchana Wijesekara and other ministers.
I would like to remind that under the leadership of President Ranil Wickremesinghe, we will succeed our goals and overcome these challenges. Policies of President Ranil Wickremesinghe and ours might be far away, but according to the need of the country today, we should adjust to those policies. I believe that in the near future, this union will be expanded, uniting with all the political parties, which will build up a common political force in this country.
Speaking at the SLPP Kalawava Executive Committee Forum, General Secretary of the party, Attorney at Law Sagara Karivasam says the SLPP has a candidate who is capable of rebuilding the country.
අපි ඊළඟ ජනාධිපතිවරණයත් ඊළඟ ජනාධිපති අපේක්ෂකයා ගැන තීරණය කරන්නේ.
As a party, we will be deciding the next presidential candidate when the next presidential election comes up. In all the past elections, our party had the most suitable candidate. Similarly, we believe that the person who is suitable for the next leadership has to be a leader capable of rebuilding the country's economy. The candidate should be capable of making Sri Lanka one of the most developed countries in the 21st century. We have that leader. That leader is dedicated to the party. We will bring forward that leader at the right time.
ඒ නායකයාත් අපි ළඟ ඉන්නවා. ඒ නායකයා අපේ පක්ෂයේ සතුව සිටිනවා. අපි ඒ නායකයාව නිසි ආකාරයේදී නිසි ආකාරයට ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා.
Now to draw your attention towards some international news, Russia's Wagner Group, the private army that has been fighting against Ukrainian forces in Ukraine alongside the Russian military, has mutinied and on Friday crossed the border into Russia. Now this report comes to us from international media, and also to draw your attention towards some reports that we just uncovered today. Russian President Vladimir Putin has vowed to punish those behind an armed uprising after the head of the Wagner private military group launched an apparent insurrection, claimed control of military facilities in two Russian cities, reportedly Rostov-on-Don and Voronezh, and warned that his troops could head for Moscow.
The head of the Wagner Group threatened to go all the way to topple Russia's military leadership and said the Wagner Group forces entered Rostov, a major Russian city of more than 1 million people that is over 100 kilometers from the border. The Russian government has called on the Wagner Group to stop its actions against the Russian military. Russian forces in Moscow have been placed on high alert, and Russian journalists reported that armored vehicles were patrolling some of the streets of the capital, although Moscow is 1,000 kilometers north of Rostov. The head of the Wagner Group was earlier a key ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Although paramilitary groups are banned in Russia, the Wagner Group has been operating for several years both in Russia and internationally in countries such as Syria, Libya, the Central African Republic and Mali in Africa. The group was formed in 2014 by a former Russian military officer whose code name was Wagner and has been involved in fighting in the Ukraine since that time. The Russian government has ordered the arrest of the head of the Wagner Group, and Russia's state media reported that the country's security agency, the FSB, has opened a criminal investigation against him for attempting to start a civil war in Russia. Tensions have escalated between the Wagner Group and Russia's military over the last several months. Wagner forces have been in the forefront of fighting against Ukrainian forces in battles for several key towns and villages in Ukraine. But the Wagner Group has accused Russia's military of not providing sufficient Russian soldiers and adequate supplies of ammunition. In Washington, the White House said it was monitoring the situation and consulting with NATO allies.
Now coming back to local news from here, the Committee on Public Accounts has ordered the Ministry of Health to carry out a full investigation into the death of people due to the use of substandard medicines and provide a report immediately. Now this order was issued when the officials of the Ministry of Health appeared before the Committee on Public Accounts yesterday afternoon.
Speaking at a media briefing on Saturday, the Government Medical Officers Association commented on a statement made by State Minister of Health, Kehelia Ramukwella.
In the statement made by the Health Minister, he has clearly stated that if sufficient funds aren't allocated, there is no point of serving as the Health Minister, and that he will resign from his post as the State Minister of Health. Is this a new trend, or was it the case for the past 2 years? The Ministry of Finance and the Health Ministry says that they receive the funds for health. We are asking the Health Minister if this is a new trend, or else is this a plan to cover up the fraudulent acts of officials. We believe that the Health Ministry is responsible in making an explanation on the sufficiency of funds.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says that inflation for the month of May has declined compared to that of April. The inflation for the month of May was reported as 21.1%. The rate of inflation was at 33.6% in the month of April.
The Social Creator of the Year 2023 for social media content creators was held in Colombo on Friday.
The Social Creator of the Year is India's first award ceremony for social media content creators. It was conceptualized and organized by Gold Coast Films, India.
मैंने इतने सारे खून किए उसको पाने के लिए, और तुम अपने आंसू बहा के उसे ले जाओगी? तुम्हें क्या लगता है?
Minister of Tourism Harin Fernando was the chief guest of the event.
So make sure you fall in love with it. Sri Lanka is just not a place. It's some place where you will get so much of hospitality, so much of love, so much of kindness. It's just a For you guys, I would say it's home away from home. So make sure that Sri Lanka is a part of your DNA. Sri Lanka is going to be a part of you. Whatever special occasion, you can celebrate it in Sri Lanka, and I will assure you.
More than 50 of India's top social media influencers were nominated for the awards, which were given in various categories. The event was held in partnership with Sri Lankan Airlines, Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts, and Walkers Tours. Legends 966 and News First are the media partners for this event.
The International Culture and Food Festival, organized by the Russian Embassy together with the Embassy of the UAE, Iran Cultural Center, High Commission of Malaysia and the High Commission of Maldives, was held in Colombo on Friday.
The International Culture and Food Fair was organized by the Russian Embassy together with the Embassy of the United Arab Emirates, Iran Cultural Center, High Commission of Malaysia and the High Commission of Maldives. Ambassadors and High Commissioners from all 5 countries participated in the event. The objective of the event is to promote the vast culture and food from countries involved.
So people came here for a gastronomical experience, and personally with Russia we brought in 2 wonderful chefs who have prepared many signature Russian dishes who everybody loves, and all the countries, the rest of the countries that are here today, the UAE, the Maldives, Malaysia and Iran, they also prepared their national authentic foods. So the people who come here for today are in for a good experience and a lot of surprises.
Ambassador of the Russian Federation also spoke about the event.
Place here, very good weather, very friendly atmosphere. We see that here a lot of people who are just watching it with great interest, so I'm more than happy. Especially nowadays, it's very important.
So do you have any plans to involve other countries in the next event?
I think, yeah, because previously some other embassies, they expressed their readiness to participate, but for some reasons they changed their mind. Hopefully they will join us, especially when they see that our first experience is extremely successful. We highly appreciate Sri Lanka's very balanced and neutral stance on some international issues. Also in human rights issues, we stand together with you. We condemned the attempts of some countries, Western countries, to interfere into domestic affairs of independent countries, including Sri Lanka. My message always, don't interfere into domestic affairs of other countries. Focus on your domestic problems. Once again, it is totally unacceptable.
The event was graced with a cultural show and an international buffet representing cuisines from all countries.
It's been 75 years since our independence, and Sri Lanka is today on her knees. Who is responsible for this crisis? Is it the people or the politicians? Are you and I to be blamed for the economic crisis caused by rampant corruption and incompetences, or are successive governments to be blamed? The fact remains that Sri Lanka needs fresh new thinking for tomorrow's problems and not stale old solutions from yesterday. And the young people of Sri Lanka are increasingly showing that they have what it takes to lead our nation into the future with fresh, innovative thinking. And that's what was seen today at the VForce Let's Move Up Youth Forum at Stein Studios in Ratmalana. Young aspiring leaders from the universities of Colombo, Peradeniya, Ruhuna, Kalaniya and the Open University participated in the VForce Let's Move Up Forum held today.
You are the leaders of tomorrow, and with that we present to you Let's Move Up by VForce.
The speakers included media icon Chandana Surya Bandara, life coach Callum Valigama, founder and chairman of Kapruka Dulit Herath, motivational coach Dr. Ranil Sugatadasa and group director of CMG Shevan Daniel. A panel discussion moderated by Chaturanga Hapuarachi saw COO of MAS Intimates Ruan Karagala, director of News First Roshan Batavala, attorney at law Sankita Gunaratna and celebrated interior designer Dilushi Mendis discuss various aspects of leadership. Let's Move Up is an initiative by GUM at the VForce and is a platform to provide young leaders with the opportunity to interact with experienced leaders from various fields and also network amongst themselves. The eventful day concluded with music and dancing, bringing to a successful end the first of a series of Let's Do It forums organized by VForce.
රටේ නායකයින් නිර්මාණය කළ යුතුයි. හැබැයි ඒ නායකයින් නිර්මාණය වෙන්න ඕනේ ඉඳ ඉන්න ලින් මැඩියෝ වගේ නෙවෙයි. අපි අහස දකින්න ඕනේ රවුමක් විදිහට නෙවෙයි. අපි ඒ අහස පුළුල්ව දකින්න ඕනේ. ඒ ලෝකයේ දිහා බලන්න හොඳ අවස්ථාවක්, හොඳ ඔපචුනිටි එකක් දුන්නා.
මේ concept එක ලංකාව වටේ ව්‍යාප්ත වුණොත් ඇත්තටම රට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන සහ ලෝකෙ අපෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන දේ අපිට දෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි මේ concept එක කියෝ.
මෙතන ඉන්නේ ගොඩාක්ම දක්ෂයෝ. එයාලට ඉදිරියට යන්න, ඉස්සරහට යන්න, අලුත් අඩියක් තියන්න, අලුතෙන් හිතන්න, අර අපි හිතන අර චින්තනෙන් එහාට ගිහිල්ලා අලුත් විදියට හිතන්න අර ලස්සන දෙයක් අපිට දුන්නා.
ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ගොඩක් දුර බැහැර කට්ටිය ඇවිල්ලා කොළඹ ඊයේ රාය නතර වෙලා තමයි අද මෙතෙන්ට ආවේ. ඉතින් ඒ ආපු එකට කිසි පාඩුවක් අවඩක් සිද්ධ වුන්නේ නැහැ.
It's a Saturday, even though for many university students, kind of like a heaven, you know, for making notes and for study and for stress relief, for everything. But still we came because we all felt like this is something so very special and this is going to be something very exciting, and it truly was.
University students who participated at the forum were awarded certificates thereafter. Music and Dance Festival organised by the National Transgender Network as part of Colombo Pride 2023 took place in Colombo on Friday.
A music and dance festival organised by the National Transgender Network as part of Colombo Pride 2023 took place in Colombo on Friday. Many traditional dance and music items were performed at the event. The objective of the event is to promote a platform to showcase the talents of the LGBTQI performers from around the country.
Now in our cricket news, the Netherlands won against Nepal by 7 wickets at the 2023 ICC World Cup Qualifier on Saturday the 24th.
Netherlands won the toss in the match held in Harare and decided to field first. Batting first, Nepal posted 91 runs for the loss of 5 wickets. Captain Rohit Podel top score with 33 runs. Logan Van Beek bowled brilliantly, taking 4 wickets, concealing only 24 runs. At the end of 44 overs and 3 balls, Nepal had scored 167 runs. Max Odod shone with an unbeaten 90, while Bas de Leede contributed with 41. Accordingly, the Netherlands, chasing 168 runs to win, reached the target in 27 overs with only 3 wickets down.
Good stroke. Gone for the big shot. So
Let's now cross over to a short commercial break and come back for more news.
JVP ekata ralla. What's happened to this ralla, to this wave?
The ralla is still there and ralla is developing rapidly. So this is the only party that is having the green signal among the public.
Once we remove the powers vested with the media minister, actually the commission is governed by president. Then parliament also silent.
So it's all a bit of a symbol, really.
Yeah.
If you look at the overall economic benefit of SOEs, then we should not be only limiting ourselves to talking about privatization of commercially run SOEs.
Mr. Ferry. Okay. Right. With respect to the Express Pearl claim. and the previous one, the oil spill thing. Captain Haddock would say blue blistering barnacles. What on earth's going on? Absolutely, we're going to call Tintin here. Yeah. Snowy to help out.
Newsline, Monday to Friday at 8:30 p.m. on TV1.
And welcome back to the news. The LOLC Divisavya program that aims to support the education of Sri Lankan children continued in Ratnapura district on Saturday the 24th.
The LOLC Divisavya program gives school books and stationery equipment to the most impoverished students in the country, ensuring a brighter future for them. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. School books and stationery items were distributed among the students Kalavana Kudameriya Vidyalaya, Imbulkale Primary Vidyalaya and the Kopikale Vidyalaya. Meanwhile, another Divisavya team distributed school books and stationery items to the students of the Udaniriyala Veragama Sri Susanda Vidyalaya, Palavela Tamil Vidyalaya, Millavitiya Tamil Vidyalaya and Kottegoda Vidyalaya as well. Another group distributed school books and stationery items at the Nivithikala Education Zonal Office. The LOLC Divisavya program will continue to ensure a better future for all school children in Sri Lanka.
And that was a wrap of Primetime News here on TV1. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, take care and have a good night.